Without further ado, Sandra, please say hello and start your presentation.
Thank you so much, John, for this incredible introduction. I couldn't do it better. You gave a pretty good highlight. And I want to say thank you to Brad. I have the honor and the pleasure to be participating in Brad conferences. And I always agree to present in these conferences because I know the quality that Brad brings to the table and how very well organized these conferences are. So as John say, I am going to be talking about the endocannabinoid system. I will be sharing my screen right now. So I think John already did a very thoroughly introduction of myself, so I'm not going to bore you with more details of who I am. I am a co-founder of Medican IPS, Medical Cannabis Clinics in Colombia. We are very excited and very delighted because as many of you know, medical cannabis was legalized in Colombia 4 years ago. The first years were very hard, very slow to get things done, but finally, between last year and this year, I think medical cannabis is moving faster in Colombia, and I see a very bright future. And this future that I see for me is focused on behalf of the patients, because through the clinics, I can see more and more patients coming to our consultations and seeing patients from all different cities from Colombia, and even doctors that want to belong to our network of Medican IPS. So I do see that all these things that we've been doing for all these years, you as industry, scientists, doctors, different type of professions, all these things that we are building all these years are showing the profits and the benefits on behalf of the patients. At the end, all the things that we do, and industry and doctors, all this medical cannabis industry revolves in a very, very big part on the patients. Everything that we are creating, standards of cultivation, standards of extraction, standards of manufacturing, and good clinical practices, everything is because of the patients, because we want to help patients and we want to give them medicine. Medical cannabis is medicine, we all know that, and we want to provide for them the best treatments and the best care, because there is millions of patients all over the world that need this medicine. So this is where I feel so passionate about what we're doing, because we're bringing well-being, we're bringing comfort to the patients, to families, we're improving their quality of life, and we are helping lots of families and patients. So going straight to the point, what is the role of the endocannabinoid system in health? Many of you will know, and I'm going to try to do this lecture not too complicated. I know most of you have knowledge about the endocannabinoid system, but we cannot forget that it is because of the endocannabinoid system that doctors and scientists are involved in this. Because if it weren't for this, we wouldn't care that much about the medical cannabis. It's because we found, and I talk about myself, that there is an endocannabinoid system in our bodies, is that it makes sense to use the cannabinoids to treat different pathologies, and even to try to balance our own endocannabinoid system in order to achieve this homeostasis and balance that we need. So we have in here different systems. We have the skeletal system, respiratory system, muscular system, digestive system, and of course we have endocannabinoid system. This system is extremely important in balancing the most essential functions on the body. For example, the sleep-wake cycle, appetite regulation, immune system function, and the cannabinoids are chemicals that affect the body, as we were talking. we're going to discuss in depth about the different endocannabinoids and the phytocannabinoids. We know that the plant contains more than 150 different types of cannabinoids, and they are found naturally in many foods you eat and even naturally produced in your own body. They are the endocannabinoids. So we're seeing here how the endocannabinoid provides balance and homeostasis through the regulation of pain, appetite, sensation, inflammation, mood, energy, and I can go on and on. I'm going to go a little bit on the history of cannabis because for talking about the endocannabinoid system, I will say first that we know the medical cannabis and cannabis is being used even 2,700 years before Christ. It's been used widely in Chinese medicine, Oriental medicine, and was brought to the Occidental medicine in 1839 by Dr. William O'Shaughnessy. And we saw how before the Marijuana Tax Act, we used to have medical cannabis preparations being sold over the counter all over the world. And even we have different medical textbooks that they were listing medical cannabis as one of the important treatments back in that era. And we also have more than, in the 20th century, we have more than over 200 papers talking about the benefits of medical cannabis. Now going to the endocannabinoid system, it's important to highlight in 1964, Professor Raphael Mechoulam discovered the molecule of THC. Then in 1988, William Devane discovered the receptors, CB1. So that was a little bit of a history. Talking about Professor Mechoulam, you may all be aware that he turned 90 years this year. Extremely remarkable scientist. I had the opportunity to spend time with him in Israel. I sat with him for an entire morning, and he was absolutely a smart, sharp, and very patient person. And very recently, he was awarded with the Harvey Prize. And this is an award that each year give for an outstanding achievement for including science, technology, and human health. So this is a big achievement, and I think for him, I think he deserves the Nobel Prize. And everybody knows that he discovered the THC molecule, but he's been doing and producing a very big amount of research all these years. We have Professor Lumir Hanus, very smart scientist who actually was the one who isolated with William Devane, another American pharmacologist, the endocannabinoid called anandamide. They call it anandamide after the Sanskrit word joy or bliss. This is one of our very important endocannabinoids that we produce. It's very important to point the endocannabinoid system and disease. The endocannabinoid system is designed to respond to your external environment and regulate your internal, mental, physical, and emotional environment. We need to understand both disease and the way cannabinoids work when formulated together. Better understand the disease being treated and to match the appropriate cannabinoid profiles and preparations. This is very important, and I'm going to stop a few seconds in here because we need to remember as doctors that we are not treating a diagnostic, we are not treating symptoms, we are treating a patient. There is a whole being, soul, body, and we need to take that in account. So it's very important to see a patient as a whole being and consider so many other things that is not just about one organ or one symptom. In here, we see how the endocannabinoid system can balance and have properties as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, and it's a long list. Now we're going to the core of the lecture, basic concepts about the endocannabinoid system. This system is compounded by receptors. The receptors, the most well-known are CB1 and CB2 receptors and others, endogenous ligands. We also, besides the receptors, we have endocannabinoids that are produced by our own body, such as an anandamide and 2-AG. There is many other endocannabinoids that they have been discovered, but for a matter of time, we're not going to be able to discuss about all of them. We also have the enzymes. They are synthesizing the endocannabinoids, and the enzymes, they are degrading these cannabinoids, such as N-acetyl transferase and MAG monoamyl glycerase and the FAB. We actually have cannabinoid receptors. They are found almost in every cell in the human body, which means that every cell can receive an instruction through this endocannabinoid system. In here, I have a graphic that will show you how is the endocannabinoid system works. The main endocannabinoids are small molecule derived for the arachidonic acid, anandamide, and 2-AG. They bind to a family of G protein coupled receptors, of which the cannabinoid receptor is densely distributed in areas of the brain related to motor, control, cognition, emotional responses, motivated behavior, and homeostasis. Outside of the brain, the endocannabinoid system is one of the most crucial modulators of the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, and the microcirculation. The endocannabinoids are released on demand from lipid precursors. And they act in a manner that they serve as a retrograde signaling messengers at GABAergic and glutamatergic synapses, as well we see it in here in this graphic. The modulators of postsynaptic transmission interact with other neurotransmitters, including the dopamine. This is very important. In here we see how the production of the endocannabinoids is on demand. This is actually something very different than the way that the normal signaling appears. The endocannabinoids are not stored in vesicles. They are just released on demand, and they interact in the presynaptic neuron with the receptor CB1, CB2, and they produce all the cascade of the benefits that the patients can obtain. We have in here how the endocannabinoid system have affection in different areas. We have in the central nervous system, facilitates the generation of new neurons and involving neuroprotection. This is very, very important. And we see in here, for example, the big role that CBD plays, but we also have our own endocannabinoids that they can play that role of neuroprotectants. We see how they are important in the immune system regulator system, suppressing pro-inflammatory cytokine production. Talking about the cytokine production, we know that right now with the coronavirus, there has been a big amount of research doing in Israel and in Canada. They're trying to find if cannabinoids, specifically CBD and terpenes, are really good to reduce the cytokine storm or to do immunomodulation that we know that is what's causing the bad effects of the coronavirus. We still don't have results about this. I think time will tell, but the endocannabinoid system and the cannabinoids, they play a very important role in the as an immunomodulatories in the body. We have in here gastrointestinal system. They help protect the GI tract from inflammation and abnormally high gastric enteric secretions. They work on the metabolism and muscles and hormones and bones, and we see how they are widely distributed in all our body. So it's very important in here. I have a very detailed diagram. This lecture of endocannabinoid system we can take, I give it in a university for students of medicine and doctors. Then it can take like 3 to 4 hours. I will try to go fast through the most important topics, but it is very important to know that the endocannabinoids are transported into cells by a specific uptake system and degraded by two well-characterized enzymes, fatty acid amide hydrolase and monoacyl glycerol lipase. Recent pharmacological advances have led to the synthesis of cannabinoid receptor agonists and antagonists, anandamide uptake blockers, and potent selective inhibitors of endocannabinoid degradation. So we see in here how complex is the mechanism, how these endocannabinoids are produced, how they are regulated, how they are degraded. This is a fascinating topic. I love to talk about this about hours, but we cannot go into detail. In here, we know that the endocannabinoid system and the phytocannabinoids, such THC, CBN, they act in a manner as the manner the key acts in a lock. They fit perfectly and they exert their functions according of the way the CB1 or CB2 receptors are located. We are going to talk about the receptor CB1. They are expressed more densely in the brain. This is very important because we will see how we produce treatments for the patients, seeing which of the receptors are we targeting. These CB1 receptors are largely responsible for mediating the effects of cannabinoids binding in the brain. Cannabinoids that bind to CB1 receptors can decrease the release of glutamate or GABA. You know, the glutamate stimulates or excites the nervous system and GABA calms it. When glutamate levels are high, GABA levels are usually low and vice versa. In here, we know why all these treatments with cannabinoids can help with neurological disorders. This is a paper that talks exactly about that. It was published in 2018, and it talks about the cannabinoid receptors and the endocannabinoid system. We see in here how receptors CB1 and CB2 are located in the brain, spinal cord, and the CB2 and peripheral nerves. And we see we have CB2 receptors at skin. We also have at lungs, CB1 and CB2. And so, you know, we have the whole diagram. We're gonna go very fast through the CB1 receptor. I already told you that the endocannabinoid system produce endocannabinoids on demand. Then these endocannabinoids and phytocannabinoids, they interact with the receptors CB1 and produce the G proteins liberation and bind to the postsynaptic receptors, as we see here in this graphic. CB1 modulates pain through the dampening of the neuronal despolarization. Now we're going to talk about receptor CB2. Is more densely found in an immune system, but it's also expressed in neurons and in more limited amounts in the brain, gastrointestinal system, and peripheral nervous system. We have in here how it works, how is the receptor, and is primarily concentrated in peripheral tissues, microglia, oligodendrocytes, and astrocytes. I'm not going to go too detailed in that. This is another paper talking about the benefits of the CB2 receptors and the interactions, just for a reference. And we have in here how our body have distributed CB1, CB2 receptors and how it works in our body. It's very important to see that the endocannabinoid system, now there is a big word called endocannabidoidome, because it's the whole system that includes the enzymes degrading, synthesizing enzymes, endocannabinoids, and receptors. And when I talk about receptors, this is very important because everybody knows CB1 and CB2 receptors, but cannabinoids interact with a lot of different receptors. We have in here a few of them: TRVP, vanilloid receptors, 5-HT1A. So it's because of this that we can have so many interactions and so many benefits when we're using cannabinoids in different therapies. We're talking about the endocannabinoids. Anandamide is a member of the fatty acid amides family, binds to the CB1 receptors, and the 2-AG is member of the glycerol esters family. As I said, there's many other endocannabinoids, but these are the ones that we know more right now. As I said, Professor Lumir Hanus discovered the anandamide and named it anandamide, derived from the Sanskrit word ananda, which means happiness. The anandamide is broken down by the enzyme Fa, which is an enzyme that breaks down THC and anandamide too. We see that through this enzyme Fa, there are a lot of pharmaceutical developments, because if we block or reduce this degradation of anandamide, we can have more endocannabinoids circulating in our body and we can obtain benefits. The anandamide is a weak partial agonist of CB1 receptor and a weak agonist of CB2 receptors. We have in here how the anandamide is produced, and basically—
Sandra, sorry, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. And basically we have all the different reactions for producing anandamide, and also how to produce the 2-AG, that is another endocannabinoid. We have in here the graphic and how is the production of these cannabinoids. And I was talking about the other receptors that interact. We have the GPRs, we have the TRP, GPR production. We have many other systems that interact with the cannabinoids. So it's very important when we are taking phytocannabinoids that we consider all the interaction. We see in here all the targets of the endocannabinoid system and all of the cannabinoids. We already talked about the degrading enzymes and how these enzymes are very important on development of different pharmaceutical grade medications to try to keep the endocannabinoid system in balance. We see in here the different receptors that I was talking before, and it's very important to know also that THC and CBD interact in a different manner and mimic what some of the endocannabinoids are doing in the body. It's very important to talk about the entourage effect. It was described by Professor Meshulam and means that it's not just isolate compound CBD and THC, it's the terpenoids and all the rest of the minor cannabinoids, the one who bring benefits for the patients. We have different publications in here. It's a very important theory. Dr. Ethan Russo talks about the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. This is something very important because it states the patients with chronic pain states like fibromyalgia, irritable colon syndrome has the endocannabinoid tone in unbalance. And when we balance that endocannabinoid tone, we can help these patients. So last statement in here is we need to do more research. I think after the UN removing from Schedule 4 the cannabis, I think we will be seeing a massive release of scientific research, and more doctors and scientists are going to be able to do more research. There is foods that contain cannabinoids, so we can do it, and also to use some exercise, meditation. There's way that we can boost our own endocannabinoid system. As I said, this is a very fascinating subject that it could take too long time, but I think I just summarized in a very brief way what is the endocannabinoid system and how important it is to know about this in order to be able to apply cannabis medicine. So my last words are, we need to train doctors, healthcare practitioners, and all the people in the industry about medical cannabis, because through the education is that we can guarantee the patients can have safe access. Thank you so much.
That was a great presentation, even if I am biased. Thank you, Sandra. Good job as always. So, anyways, moving on, I will now introduce Kim McCarthy. Our panel moderator for Women's CBD Entrepreneurs is Kim McCarthy, founder of Pipeline Strategies. Pipeline Strategies guides organizations on how to effectively brand as an employer of choice. In other words, the place you really want to work. In a nutshell, she helps you to attract and keep key employees. This is an extremely important function since, as a former employer of thousands, I learned very quickly that the most important assets are the ones that walk out the door every evening. In technology, who gives a crap about a bunch of computers? It's the people that make it actually work. And I think cannabis is a lot like that. Further, Pipeline Media is your media and marketing partner for investor pitch events and partnering with emerging brands to increase visibility and penetrate markets through our sales, PEO, and digital publications. In 2019, Kim entered the cannabis and digital marketing arena by launching Harvest and Plume and the Cannabis Sessions. After receiving accolades for the presentation of information in digital format, AKA the experience, her unique digital formatting became highly sought after by progressive companies needing to share information, such as shareholders communications, business presentations, pitch decks, training, company letters, etc. So, Kim, if I've missed anything, please feel free to elaborate briefly on your bio. Otherwise, Kim, please feel free to take it away. Thank you. Hi, Kim. I believe you're on mute.
Now?
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
No worries. Happens to the best of us.
It was just the top secret y'all were looking for.
You got it.
If you can read lips.
Please repeat. My lip reading is terrible.
I just wanted to say thank you very much, especially to Dr. Sandra, because she's really introducing or the perfect transition into my talking with Davina and Mandy. Our panel is really about women in the CBD space, and ever so briefly, since I was already introduced, I'd like to share the spotlight with Mandy Lile. She is with potency number 710. And then we also have, with me, I have like the Brady Bunch, only there are like 30 of them on there. And then I have Davina, but I don't know where Davina is on my screen. So hi, Davina. She is with Element Apothic. And the exciting thing, two exciting things. One is she's presenting today to the investors, so she's pitching. And also, this is her grand opening. So bravo, congratulations, and welcome to the space officially. Davina, let's start with you, Davina.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, good. So tell me more about really just a brief why you decided to get into the cannabis industry, whether it be hemp or marijuana. Yours is
yeah, I mean, my experience my experience with cannabis started really early, actually. I have a picture, I think I was about 5 or 6 months old, just sitting. And my dad actually, he was Hawaiian. He was also a military veteran, and he suffered from severe PTSD. And so I have a picture of me sitting on the couch, and I would always love to grab his little seedlings he was growing and hold them. And it was something that meant so much to me because I knew how it helped him from an early age. I remember being in school and there was all these programs, anti-drug programs, and you would sit there and they would ask you to raise your hand if you knew anybody that did drugs, including smoking marijuana. And I remember sitting there feeling ashamed, like, oh my gosh, if I don't raise my hand, I'm lying. But if I raise my hand, something's going to happen to my family. And going home and talking to my dad about that, about how it really helped him to be able to survive, that he couldn't walk outside. He really had severe PTSD, and it really allowed him to live life. And so I grew up always believing in the benefits of cannabis. I'm also Hawaiian, and so part of it's also culturally aunts and uncles and stuff sitting around and smoking, but I always knew they were happy. It wasn't like people who drank and, would end up kind of angry or upset. And myself, as I went through college and studied, I went to school for engineering. It was intense, and I used it to help me. It helped me relax. It allowed me to study. And so through the years, I actually went into the tech internet space. But when I did get the opportunity several years ago, I was hired to do some work with a company that was producing a book in the cannabis space. And I was so excited to be able to work on that because I really understood the benefits and how it helped. I didn't understand all of the reasons why and the education behind it, which I've learned since then, but I knew that it impacted people, and that's continued through now launching Element Apothic and really being able to bring products that can continue that level of really making a difference in helping people.
That's awesome. I want to put a pause on that. I want to introduce Mandy and how she came into the space, and then we're going to really mesh into the women and the CBD stuff. So Mandy, please.
Hey girls, hi boys, hi everybody. I also have a long history with the cannabis plant. I probably visited more prisons growing up than theme parks because my dad was the local drug dealer, and he did always have grows in all of our houses. And my mom and dad divorced very early on, so she did not approve of that lifestyle. So I was torn between two lifestyles, the Girl Scout leader and the drug dealer. So I grew up around the plant, and I never was mad about the plant because, like Davina mentioned, the other drugs that I would see going on, the pharmaceuticals or the drinking, I always thought seemed to bring much more problems around than anybody that was smoking a little. They just seemed a lot more calmer. After that, I ended up going into the skincare industry, which I've been an esthetician for 24 years, as of September, 24 years. I've been an esthetician working alongside a very well-known physician. He was much into herbs and plant medicine, and I really got interested probably at the age of 20 into ingredients with plants, using a lot of lavender, rosemary, thyme, geranium, cypress, all the essential oils I'm just extremely passionate about. I mop my floor with essential oils. I diffuse essential oils. I think that they have such a mind, body, spirit effect on us. So skincare to me is like a ritual, and self-care is extremely important. I think it's important teaching young children about self-care because it builds our confidence. And I'm just hoping that with bringing cannabis into my beauty line, Potency number 710, that I'm going to be able to help clear the stigma a little bit and lead people into trying more plant-based products. And I believe a lot of people will start with topicals before that they try the gummy or the edibles or smoking. I believe they'll try those topicals and see a really good result with them, and it will lead them to try other plant-based products as well. And I'm just happy to be here, and we have an amazing gift box going on. I'm sure we'll talk about throughout the day, but there's 3 great brands in that box, and anybody could benefit from this box. It's 3 retail size products, so I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit.
Well, let's keep going with what you're talking about. For those who don't know, Mandy also is owner or co-owner of a dispensary, but she doesn't manage it. All of her energy is focused on the CBD product or brand of Potency number 710. And I'm interested to know why. Why do you say, you know what, I don't want to focus on that. I only want to focus on this.
Well, I don't think I'm a woman. Usually we're pretty patient, but I don't have the patience that my fiance Harry has, that he's had this entire time. He's been in the business for well over 10 years, even before it was medical. And we have 2 dispensaries here in Needles, California, which we are from North Hollywood area. But once they opened up Needles as a place to be able to cultivate on a large scale, we decided that it was a great opportunity. The land was a lot cheaper here. So we're vertically integrated at one of the businesses where he's licensed to do manufacturing, distribution, and retail, all under one roof. And it's attached to 100 acres with promises to do lots of other fun things. And then we have a second shop that's a retail shop that is in Needles as well. So there's 4 stores in this little small town, but it's extremely busy. Especially since it was deemed essential. Thank God, that's the only thing getting us through this pandemic is cannabis. But it's been extremely busy. It's right off the 95 or right off of a freeway, so it's really busy, and we're thankful for that. But he has a lot more patience than I do, and I just find the beauty side is what I know, and incorporating CBD as an ingredient in the beauty products, what I'm watching it do has just been amazing. That seems like it's a lot more rewarding. I can actually see what CBD and cannabis is doing to people's skin, where it can only hear what people tell him that it's doing to them, that it makes them feel better or it helps them with their pain. But I actually get to watch these transformations, which to me has just been mind blowing to watch what that antioxidant CBD and free radical fighter is actually doing to the skin. And just like Dr. Sandra Carrillo mentioned, the endocannabinoid system and how the CB2 is connected to the skin. So it's just with all the omega and everything, all the ingredients in there, it was a no-brainer to stick with the beauty side of things. And this less dealing with the city. That city is just not fun to deal with any of that stuff.
Well, Davina, how about you? Because you came from a completely different background. She and I share the same blood in this capacity. Davina comes from a human resources background, so more people strategies, and then a business consultant. And then why did you decide to make those decisions to transition towards CBD or cannabis?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it really came from as you go through your life and your career, you really start to understand your purpose and your mission. And being in human resources, as you know, initially, I really was able to make an impact on the people that I worked with. And I worked in the internet space and some, many startups, and really was able to help build incredible teams and sometimes saw the successes and obviously sometimes saw the failures of some of those companies. But I really was able to make a difference and studying things and really looking at things from an analytical perspective and in terms of how people could really help generate the business and the things that you can do and how important those leadership positions are in building the foundation. And so then I transitioned into business consulting because I thought instead of just one company, I can help many companies do the same thing, and actually started transitioning more into operations and strategy. But I still was missing my why and what my purpose was. And as I started to really understand also the market and cannabis, like I said, I was involved in a book early on and thought there really is a need to bring a level of professionalism to this space. I think there's a need for women to come into this space. And so I was given the opportunity. My great aunt actually created these incredible line of wellness products to help her suffering from several autoimmune diseases and medical conditions. She was actually growing her own cannabis in her living room, making her own Rick Simpson oil. And those products allowed her to go from being partially bedridden to living. And some of the products had CBD and cannabis, some of them didn't. And she came to me to help her build a website because she wanted to bring her products to more people. And as I started using her products, I already live a life of organic and plant-based. And so I started using those products, and I would actually buy them from friends' parents or give them to friends that were going through things or using them for myself. And the opportunity came to be able to take that business and run with it. And so I thought, this is amazing because I have the ability to build teams. I love what this plant can do for people. It can really make an impact on people's lives. And I also have the business acumen to really try to bring the products. She asked me to bring them she goes, can you help me bring my products to the world? So I thought I had the ability to really bring her products to the world. And that served my purpose of why, because I can really help people that deserve better. They deserve clean and safe products. As Mandy said, this plant impacts so many things, and it can really help in the products that you create, whether it's beauty or tinctures. And so it encompasses all of what brought me here. And on top of that, I get to be involved with this plan. So that's why I'm here.
Well, one of the things I actually love, and referencing what Mandy referenced earlier, is we're calling it the 3-brand box with Good For, Potency 710, and Elementopic. First of all, I hope you all take advantage of it. That is a really good deal. My eye is tearing up. I'm tearing up over this deal. But having said, with these great successes, I want to know, as women specifically in this CBD corner, how impactful and what are the successes that you've seen? And I'm going to flip that around and say same thing on challenges. So go ahead. Oh, Mandy. You're muted, Mandy.
I'm here. I just
There
didn't
you
know
go.
which one of us you were talking to.
No,
I don't let
answer.
I don't let being a woman get in my way. I feel like that I don't I know that I just feel like we're all the same. And I'm not one of those that's like, but I'm a woman and it's this way, or I don't let that be an excuse. I've just always just came full force and just made things happen, no matter if I was a woman or a man or whatever sex them change, whatever they've changed to nowadays, or if I'm black or white or Chinese. I just have never let that get in my way of challenging me. I know there's not a lot of women in this space, but I feel like in the CBD space, there is a little bit more women than there is in the cannabis space. So I don't know. I've just never let anything really challenge me right up into this point. I've just been plowing through pretty nicely, actually, Kim. So I haven't had really any challenges. The only challenges I had in the beginning was the advertising challenges that you have and not being able to make the claims that I'd like to be able to say. You know, feeling like we were selling something like crack online, and Amazon had me thinking I was selling some drug, and I'm like, it's a topical serum, you know. You almost felt like the police were going to show up when you launched your website, and you were and you had a little bit of a fear in you, you know.
Exactly.
Yes,
How about you, Davina?
challenge I had in the beginning, but I've never let being I just think we're all equal. I think everybody's equal. I don't like to divide us into sections, and I just come full force.
Yeah, I completely agree too with what Mandy said. I mean, I think it's just being comfortable in your skin, whether you're man, woman, what your race is. And I know there's inequalities, you know, in cannabis. I experienced it in the internet tech space, but it's just being comfortable with being you and being a leader and being confident in the brand or the company that you're building. I think is important in terms of the challenges as a woman. I think it's just being, and also being able to be vulnerable. It's something myself that I've been challenged with, because I think kind of starting in the internet tech space, I always had to be very polished and I had to be professional. And now coming into a CPG company and being able to be more vulnerable and being comfortable being out there. And people keep telling me, put your stories on Instagram and on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I think, oh my gosh, what are people going to think about me? They won't see me as this professional position, but it's important to be vulnerable, because you want your customers to see you as a person. You want them to know that they can believe and trust in you. And so that's been one of my challenges. And then, yeah, what Mandy said, you talk to people and they're like, what, you're in the CBD space or cannabis space? And even though it's changing, there's still such a stigma that exists with it, and dealing with banks and having your PayPal account closed and all of the challenges that exist, where you sometimes think, if people really understood the benefits of what we're doing, and it really should be an ingredient in products, and it shouldn't be looked at as this, you know, illegal thing that you're doing. And so that I think that to me, one of the bigger challenges is having to explain myself. Why did you move out of this industry into CBD? What are you doing? What are you thinking? And then having, you know, the banks and all of the other issues that come along with it. But it's just being confident and knowing the industry's changing. There's a lot of successes that are continuing to happen. You know, obviously the House of Representatives and the vote that recently happened. So there's a lot of changes that are happening in the industry. And if we just stick with it and we keep doing better, those challenges are going to start going away.
Right. I remember when I entertained the idea. I didn't enter the industry. I watched the industry for 3 years on LinkedIn because it was emerging. I too was, I think fear-based is really just the best word. I was fear-based on what my clients would say. I had just moved from the corporate side into the independent space. So, you know, now I'm really representing, and I'm representing myself. All of a sudden I'm representing every other person I know. And you know, people associating and disassociating with me, until I finally say, you know, I just need to come out of the cannabis closet. Whether you're a consumer or not, it's just coming out of the closet, owning it, being proud. And it took me 3 years, but I did it.
We're so glad you came out.
And honestly, that has allowed me to just take it all off, so to speak, you know, just put it in full gear and say, this is what I'm doing. This is who I'm representing and where I'm going. I would say that would be the biggest challenge, is staying in the cannabis closet and just being afraid or fear-based, coming out in whatever capacity, support, knowledge base, or having a brand. That was my big challenge, but again, turned it into a succse.
We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here, and that you just came out smoking.
Thank you. So let's round this out and talk about one more thing before we promote the 3-brand box. So let's talk about, if you could improve one thing, what would it be and why?
Sorry to interrupt. 5 minutes.
Are we there?
Okay.
5 minutes. There we
Okay.
go.
Improve one thing. Well, that's a deep question. Your questions always make me think really hard. I just want you to know, you just asked one last few days ago, what is our superpower? And I looked at it and had to revisit that same question the next morning, because I was like, what is, and it's good to think of those things. But Davina, can you answer that question faster? Because I need to ponder on this.
I mean, the one thing I just think over and over for the industry is that we can all just continue to do better, that the consumers, that the patients, that the companies out there, partnerships deserve it, and all of the bad press and all of the inaccurate labeling and all of the bad stuff that's coming out hurts us and prevents people from getting into the space, from trying the products. And so we need to all hold ourselves more accountable to do better.
And more education and
Yeah.
educate along the way. Yeah, just more education. That's what I
I
would
was gonna
change,
say
that we
that.
had more education.
Absolutely. Education is so key. I was on the phone with my parents. My mom just had spinal surgery, and I was suggesting cannabinoids for some pain relief. And it didn't go that way, but the education did. And at least that's a knock on the door, to a 75-year-old generation.
Yeah.
So I say definitely keep the education going, without arrogance. I think that oftentimes we use these big fancy words like endocannabinoid and cannabinoid receptor, and we may be intimate with that knowledge, but there are so many people who aren't, and they're easy to close the door on that simply because they don't understand. So I think that for all of us, as we use whatever platform, product, brand we have, use your voice to have a soft and compassionate educational intention.
Weed for dummies.
Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. I was trying to be nice. That's all the back of the house talk. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut this short, with the exception of, Mandy, please tell me everyone, what product is in the 3-brand box, and then Davina, you the same, and then Jeff is on here somewhere. There he is, Jeff Ullman.
We're doing we have the Good For pain salve in there. If you don't need this for yourself, I almost bet you have a wife in the kitchen that's cooking or wrapping presents that needs this rubbed on her today. Then we have the Future Face Spa Mask by Potency number 710 with the CBD in there as well, full spectrum. It's a charcoal mask. If you don't need this yourself, somebody that has done something for you, your secretary or somebody this year needs that. Davina's product is the Calm Tincture that's going in the box. We're waiting UPS to bring that. I'm chasing that truck every day like a dog. So we are waiting for that product to throw into the super cute box, wrapped with the marketing tape with all 3 brands on there. And it's $55, is that what Brad priced that at? $55 for all 3 products. It's an 88% savings. So you're getting 3 retail size products in a box, ready to gift to whoever you want to toss it at or keep for yourself. It's an amazing, amazing promo and a way to try a product. If you haven't tried a product, just go to the Eventbrite link, click it and buy it, and then you're going to love it.
And lastly, congratulations, Davina, on your grand opening.
Yes.
Her products are officially for public consumption.
Yes, we're so excited. It's been a long road, but we're really excited that people can go on our site and buy our products and really start using them for better.
Davina, what's your website? Do you want to tell it real quick too?
Yeah, I'll type it also in the chat. Thank you, Mandy. It's elementapothic.com, and I'll type it in the chat for everyone.
And mine's potency710.com, and good for is on here somewhere. I'm thinking Jeff is probably good. Does anybody know what goodfor.com? Doesn't matter what our websites are, just go click on the box. You're going to get all 3 products that has all of our information in there.
Thank you all for your time, and good luck on your pitches.
Thanks.
That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And Brad, you need to do more of those. That was really, really interesting. Anyways, moving on. Cannabis banking panel moderator for today is Tyler Burrowline. Tyler Burrowline, Chief Revenue Officer for Hypers. Hypers is a US-based financial tech company providing banking and payment solutions for cash-intensive industries such as cannabis, CBD, and money services. And man, we could really use your services in Colombia. As Chief Revenue Officer, Tyler builds brands, manages key relationships, and strategic partnerships. For over 5 years, Tyler has pioneered Hyper's expansion efforts, networking with financial institutions, government officials, regulatory bodies, and major commercial cannabis entities. He possesses an intricate knowledge of the banking and regulatory climate, key industry influencers, industry dynamics, and market history. He has also become a key contact for media outlets, analytics companies, industry consultants, and investment firms searching for reliable, accurate sources of industry information. Tyler's contacts and relationships in the US state legal cannabis industry are unparalleled. As a result of his influential value, he was selected to be chairman of the National Cannabis Industry Association Banking and Financial Services Committee. He's also a member of the Forbes Business Development Council, frequently publishing articles about the banking and payment environment in the cannabis sector. And yes, I've read some of your articles. Great content. And Tyler founded and managed a large beverage company prior to joining the Hyper team, and was a professional athlete in New York Mets Association. Imagine all of that in a professional athlete too. God, Tyler, if I was a female, I would want to have your baby. So without further ado, Mr. Tyler Burrowline, please take it away.
Thanks so much, John. I really appreciate the intro, and thank you for having me. I've been very fortunate to be on the front lines of this space for a long time now, and as we all jokingly refer to it as dog years in the cannabis space. So I think I'm creeping up near 50 at this point in cannabis years. But we've lived this world. We've been on the front lines of it in a unique way, and we've gotten to know most in the industry. And I've had the good fortune to meet both Michael Newman and Ron New, who are the panelists here. I think they've done some really innovative things for the industry, and very excited to interview them and let them share how they're doing what they're doing, and kind of where they're going and how that's going to benefit the industry. So Michael and Ron, if you'd like to introduce yourselves real quick, I think that'd be great background.
And Michael, you're muted.
There we go.
There you go.
It's Michael Newman. I'm the founder of Worth Street, and very brief history because we don't have a lot of time, but I had an idea of a way where smaller banks that were serving the cannabis industry could expand their ability to accept deposits without creating additional risk to them or risk to the financial system. So I partnered up with a bank, actually through one of Tyler's introductions. And with that bank, we went to regulators and proposed our business plan to accept this range of deposits. Regulators accepted that, and we went into business. It only took us a year to craft the legal agreements to be able to do that. And then we've taken that basis and moved into creating, using the exact same structures with the regulators' approval, ways to allow a small bank to be able to do $100 million volume size of transactions, again, where it doesn't create additional risk to the bank, and it makes the bank more profitable, and it serves the financial interests of the government regulators. So that's my quick background.
Okay, I'll jump in here. So I'm Ron New. Joined the company a little over a year ago. Career background in capital markets, embarrassing to say, over 25 years. Coming over to Worth Street, I would describe Worth Street, we are creative problem solvers. And listening to the prior speakers and looking at the chat, there's a lot of conversation about the role of passion in this industry. And that's what makes it fun to be involved in. We're passionate problem solvers, and our background is finance. So we saw cannabis as an opportunity to put those problem solving skills to work and address those friction points, first with a scalable banking solution. And then we've pivoted over, and we've been, the bigger challenge has been addressing how to get lending into the cannabis industry, because the same problems that impact banking are very similar to the same problems that impact lending. So when I think about who Worth Street is, I look at a comparison to Silicon Valley Bank. If you're in the tech space, you've probably heard of them. They were founded in the 80s. Their role first was to gather the deposits of all the tech firms that were getting funding from the VC and the private equity space, and then they started creating additional solutions to service that space. That's what we've been doing at Worth Street.
It's great. So guys, I know that this has been mentioned previously on this webinar, and I guess we'll just hop right into it. What have been the biggest hindrances to banking in the cannabis industry?
Ron, let me take this and turn it over to you right after. I date back into this industry as a user in college in the 1970s. My favorite product was Jamaican Blue Mountain Ganja, and I was following after what Robert Mitchum had done, which is enjoying doobies throughout Hollywood. You could have a press agent get you out of trouble back then until Richard Nixon came along. Richard Nixon made cannabis a Class 1 substance, and it wasn't because he was particularly against cannabis, but he wanted to use it as a way to bring felony charges against Vietnam War protesters. So it's with that cannabis prohibition perspective that we've all operated, and this has begun to change with the expansion of statewide cannabis legality, and I guess we're now in 36 states. But that still leaves this stigma or a taint with regard to banking, because the problem is that the heart behind banking has to be its board of directors and how it serves its clients, and they have to make sure that they're not exposed to BSA and AML, this Bank Secrecy Act, and any money laundering screening issues relative to all the deposits that are coming into their banks, and they have to be concerned also about having too high levels of deposits in that industry. If something goes sideways, the banks are severely penalized, but so are the actual board of directors members of the banks. So they're very loath to take on too much risk. So that's been the heart of the problem in banking, and that's why it's been basically focused largely on credit unions and state chartered banks.
Yeah, I'll interject. You know, Michael touched on it, but the panel before us, the ladies who were speaking, even though largely what they're dealing with is CBD, they've faced the stigma, pushback from the Amazons of the world, pushback from the PayPals of the world, and as Michael just pointed out, what a lot of people don't realize and what makes banks so cautious is one, civil liability at the directors and officers level. It was a bank president that told me, he says, whatever level of stigma exists in the populace, and obviously after the last election, it's clearly not a broad issue. Whether you're a red state or a blue state, legality is pushing through, and we have the majority of states that do have some form of legality. However, whatever level of stigma resists or continues, this bank president says, multiply it by at least a factor of 2 when you get to the board level of banks. So stigma is certainly probably the biggest obstacle, aside from the level of regulatory and compliance, which, Tyler, you probably know better than anybody, because that's the role of Hyper.
Well, and to just kind of piggyback off that, one thing that people don't realize is regulators have never been given guidance either. So they were learning with the banks and credit unions trying to bank this industry. And as you can imagine, if you're a regulatory body and you're trying to examine a bank banking the industry without any guidance of how to do so, you know, they've had to learn as well. And that's been a very challenging thing. One other thing I'll just add as well, the risk to the officers cannot be covered by the insurance policies of those financial institutions. So if I'm a chief compliance officer and I do something wrong and a civil money penalty is imposed on me personally, there's no, that's something I have to deal with outside of the insurance policy. So guys, that being said, what are the challenges of banking and lending in the cannabis industry?
I guess I'll dive in, Ron, and you follow. There's a whole host of regulators. There's state, federal, OCC, Federal Reserve, and they all protect the integrity of the financial system. The FDIC insurance is absolutely critical for people to put deposits in their banks, and the FDIC has its own set of regulators. And the banks are the watchdogs for the regulators. They're the gatekeepers. And if the banks fail in their role at being gatekeepers, as Tyler was just suggesting, severe disciplinary action. And the last thing in the world that any of these bankers wants with a failure as a gatekeeper doing this BSA and AML compliance, they don't want the guys with the black jackets with white letters all over them coming in to pay them a visit. It's the last thing in the world they want. So this places the bank in a place where it has to be able to make money in the cannabis industry, servicing them. And it's not the same as banking a typical client, where it's more of a commodity-based service. It requires a very specialized set of skills to provide that kind of oversight.
All right, then I'll piggyback on that. So when you're looking at banking the cannabis industry, obviously, first thing is the concern is protecting the integrity of the U.S. financial system. And because there's such a high level of cash that goes through the cannabis industry, and Tyler, you might be able to interject here. I know Hyper's done some research that shows that even once we get to the point where you don't have to do an end around to use a credit card, there's still going to be a high percentage of people that are going to prefer to pay with cash. So anytime where you've got a high cash environment, there is the huge risk of money laundering, which when Michael refers to BSA and AML, that's the Bank Secrecy Act, which I believe is of 71, which is specific to money laundering, and then AML is anti-money laundering. That's the role of the bank in terms of protecting the financial system. So the desire is to make sure all funds moving back and forth are subject to screening. When it comes to lending, then you have a whole other host of issues, because taking deposits is probably, as long as you've got that BSA AML component, that's a manageable thing as long as your volume's not too high. If your volume starts to get higher, well, then there's the greater risk of mistakes. And then it goes back to what Tyler is saying, the errors and omissions policy at a bank for their directors and officers does not cover the civil penalties they could be subject to. That's why banks are so reticent to do this. And this is why, even if we get to a point of legality, the compliance and regulatory burden is going to still be there. When it comes to lending to the industry, well, then there's a whole other set of issues there, because now the bank's not just taking the deposits. Banks, theoretically, the ones that have a dedicated program arguably could be making loans, and probably more of them should. But because we're dealing with state chartered financial institutions, because we're dealing with a piecemeal deconstruction of prohibition, it's state by state, and that's why you're only dealing with state chartered financial institutions. They tend to be smaller in size, which means the loans that they can potentially make are not that large. You're probably looking at ideally a sweet spot of around $2 million to $5 million per loan. When a grow costs $10 million or more, that doesn't really work. And then there's the whole issue of the fact that while this is a very rapidly growing and fragmented industry, it is an industry where a lot of the players out there aren't really making that much money. And we could, you could do a whole other panel on the issues, 280E and what have you. So then you get into the underwriting characteristics, and I'll turn it over to either Tyler if you have another question, or Michael if you wanted to address how we've approached the issue of lending.
Yeah, just a couple of things, Ron, and then I think we'll pivot to another question. The industry needs to realize that there are a myriad of industries that dwarf cannabis from a volume perspective that have been shut out of the banking system because they're cash intensive by nature. And so this is not, as much as it is a federal illegality problem, it's also just as much a cash intensive business problem, and that will not change upon federal legality. Two other things real quick. The SAFE Act will not bring the branded card networks into this space, contrary to what's stated in the media in many cases. So it doesn't change the federal legal status of the product. The branded card networks will not enter until this is federally legal, period, end of story. So those are all things that, again, I think it's important for the industry to understand. So next question, who's really banking the industry? I mean, we see the FinCEN reports. I see stories all the time that there's 700 plus institutions banking this. And of those institutions, can they provide a full suite of products to the cannabis industry that's going to help them succeed?
I'll start off, Ron, and then dive in. Less than 10% of those banks that are filing suspicious activity reports, which they have to file periodically to the U.S. Treasury, are actually full service cannabis banks. A lot of the suspicious activity reports that are filed in the banking systems are letting the Treasury know that the bank has become aware that there are cannabis businesses that are trying to run deposits to their bank, and the bank is not really focused on being a full service cannabis banking provider. You really need, in order to be one of those banks, you need to make use of the suite of services that somebody like Hyper provides. To successfully do it, you need fintech and regtech software platforms to provide the granularity that, believe it or not, the regulators are now seeking. You used to be able to do this with manual systems, but as this whole business has gone multi-state, it's not possible to be able to do this anymore the old mom and pop way in the community banks manually. So you need to validate every customer, you need to track cash transactions, you have to provide accountability for every dollar in or out of the MRB bank's deposit account. And that gets right into the next realm that Tyler was talking about, and that is how do you do debit card type payments that banks want to be able to do, because they want to take cash out of the system. They very much want to move towards a system where you can use some form of a smart app and a cell phone to be able to validate the customer and then move the money directly from that customer's account into the MRB bank's merchant account through a processing system. And that's what one of the solutions that Hyper does provide. So that's the basic oversight in terms of the volume of banking in the cannabis industry. It's, even though it seems like everybody's banked for the most part today, it's not something that's necessarily easy to do.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in there. So when you're looking at who's banking it, again, you're dealing with state chartered institutions, which your banks, think of a community bank or a credit union. They tend to be smaller in size. Typically, on a quarterly basis, you'll see roughly 700 institutions that are filing those suspicious activity reports. As Michael said, the belief of those in the know is that there's probably fewer than 10%. So out of the entire country, you probably have fewer than 100 banks that are actively banking this, that actually have a program. Then when it comes to lending, well, then that becomes a whole other issue, because then you get into the whole thing of what do banks like to do? They don't like to make risky loans. To bank an industry, to lend to an industry, You have to understand the industry, you have to understand the culture, you have to understand the users, and frankly, the majority of banks don't really grasp that. They're still in a learning process, and they're still trying to get comfortable just with the idea of taking deposits. So what we've done in terms of trying to address that issue, we created what's called an institutionally funded direct lending vehicle. And frankly, that's what we're in the process of securing funding for. So we look at things on a cash flow basis. We look at the companies that have good management. We look at the companies that are profitable, that have free cash flow. We underwrite based off of that. And then we turn around and we try to size that loan out. And most importantly is we have a partner bank. We have what we've called a reciprocal service agreement. Michael and the lawyer spent the better part of a year working on that. It sounds easy, but it was a highly complex document that had to be put together. But we've done that and inserted a bank into our direct lending facility so that the issues that are of concern to the regulators is protecting the integrity of the U.S. financial system. So we have a bank that's acting as our servicer and administrator that is watching and doing those BSA, AML duties back and forth. And they've also incorporated the Hyper platform to give them the ability to do it at scale.
That's great, Ron. And I guess you kind of touched on it, but
Gentlemen, 5 minutes.
yeah, how do you lend to the industry? Okay, if you're not a bank, and is there a better way today? I mean, can you talk about kind of the differences? And I know many of these guys have gone out, they've had to take loans out with private money lenders to buy property, you know, at 20% interest only rates because they had to own the property to operate in it. And what many people don't realize is if I'm a cannabis operator and I go to lease a retail location in a limited license market, but the owner of that retail location has a bank note on that property, there is language in that bank note that prohibits him from leasing to a federally illegal operator. So as the liquidity markets dried up, many of these MSOs have frantically been looking for cheaper money. So if you could just talk about, you know, again, specifically the product and how you guys are doing what you're doing, I think it'd be very valuable.
I'll start out, Ron, and then maybe you can dive into the capital market side of this. There have been various sources of funding the cannabis industry, which we've all observed over the last couple of years. Cash, stock, for acquisitions, for roll-ups and so forth. And there have been problems along the way that just, those solutions don't scale. So what Ron and I came up with was making use of this MRB bank partner through the reciprocal services agreement. They become the loan servicer and the administrator. They give the institutional investor comfort that the institutional investor is not going to be exposed to the BSA and AML risks for lack of compliance. What that allows us to do is go to a bank, let's say it's only $100 or $150 million in total assets. We can go out and put a $50 million loan out to a cannabis company, and the funding would come from an institutional investor. The institutional investor is taking on the credit risk, but the institutional investor is getting much higher yield than he would get, and yet the metrics on that loan are of investment grade quality. So let me turn this quickly over to Ron because we're running out of time, and talk a little bit more about that, because I think we've done something that's unique that lets institutional investors come in without the exposures to the cannabis industry that they're concerned about.
Okay, so I'll jump in here, and part of the audience, this may get a little higher level in terms of the finance side. Feel free to ping us separately if you'd like to explore the conversation more. But in short, if I'm an institutional investor, typically you want to be as close to the money as possible. So what we've done, and it's basically called being at the top of the waterfall, is the money's coming in. Michael has a background in entertainment finance. That was a role in how we created the structure. I have a background in securitization. That was a role in creating the structure. We approached this trying to come up with a means of a product that is functional, for the borrower, the cannabis company, and a product that addresses the risks and concerns for the potential institutional lender investor. So top of the waterfall, we've created an amortizing product. So what our base structure is a loan that is a 10-year amortization with a 4-year balloon. Coupons, we're trying to, don't have enough time to get into the analysis, but part of being a trader is you look at the broader capital market system and do a comparative analysis as to what the other options and competing products are out there. Cannabis, as everybody knows, historically you've been stuck to either using cash, using stock as a proxy for cash if you're a public company, or you've been left to the hard asset lenders, as Tyler mentioned. You're doing well if you can get financing at 15%, but we've seen balance sheets routinely where we're seeing the loans that are at 20% and well above there. It's the loan to own. We've created a structure that aligns interests. We underwrite based off of cash flow, and we've addressed the issues, and most importantly, we've incorporated a bank to address those risk issues from a regulatory standpoint, which is making sure that the money is validated going both ways.
Ron, fortunately, we have to leave it at that. For me, that was a riveting conversation. I'm not kidding. I was an AML compliance officer for a major financial institution in a past life. So anyways, thank you very
John.
much. It was excellent, excellent discussion. I really wish I could sit down with you guys and spend hours because what you have is amazing. Anyways, moving on. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I said, give us a call.
I will be, actually. I will. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Now on to our fireside chat. As part of the Cannabis Investment Forum tradition of hosting well-known celebrities such as Jim Belushi and Cheech Marin, I'm proud to announce Anthony Henderson, AKA Crazy Bone, co-founder and president, Leaves of Legend. Anthony Henderson, better known as Crazy Bone, is an American rapper, singer, producer, and entrepreneur. He is most famously known as a member of the legendary Bone Thugs and Harmony, who've sold over 50 million records worldwide. Crazy Bone has been a long-time advocate of cannabis legalization and has shaped cannabis culture through music for decades. He recently co-founded Leaves of Legend, a premium cannabis company that focuses on creating a positive impact in the community. Crazy Bone and Leaves of Legend, for example, fund scholarships at the Cleveland School of Cannabis, where the focus is to provide local residents with career opportunities in the emerging industry. I mean, I really like that. That's amazing, getting on the ground and actually doing something versus beating our gums and talking about it. So anyways, without further ado, let's all welcome Crazy Bone.
Hello.
Hi, Crazy Bone. By the way, Mr. Anthony Henderson, how would you like to be addressed?
It's cool. Crazy Bone is cool.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Great. So let's start off with, would you mind just telling us about your music career for those of us that have never heard of you?
Yeah, well, I come from a group called Bone Thugs and Harmony. We've been in the music business for over 25 years. Grammy Award winning group, American Music Award winning group, MTV Awards. We were discovered by the late great Eazy-E from the group NWA in 1994. So we've had a hell of a run. It's been a roller coaster of a career, but it's been fun, and we've learned and experienced a lot of things. Definitely.
So, why did you decide to start your own cannabis brand?
Well, just like I mentioned, I'm in the group Bone Thugs and Harmony, and if people out there are familiar with our music, we've always been advocates for cannabis, even before it was legal. So it was inevitable. Bone Thugs and Harmony, we are that group that helped to merge the two cultures, cannabis and music. So it was only right. I feel like it was only right. And we've always been into cannabis ever since we were teenagers, back when it was illegal and everybody shunned it. So when I noticed when I noticed that the industry was taking a turn, I was like, it's only right that we play a part in that. You know, we've been knowing about cannabis and some of the health benefits, and we weren't even doctors, just by experimenting with it, you know. And but you know, we had to experience it on the other side of the law. So once we saw the legalization of it, you know, I said to myself, it's a must that we have a strong hand in this, because we had a lot to do with, again, merging the two cultures. So I feel like this is supposed to be some of ours. You know, we paid many dues for being advocates of cannabis before it was legal and bringing it to the mainstream. And you know, I feel like we need to be a part of that. And a lot of people smoke their first joint or blunt to a Bone Thugs and Harmony song anyway. So it's only right. It's only right.
Got it. Understood. Wow. Actually, after this is all over, I'm looking up to sparking up a bowl and listening to your tunes, giving my right brain a nice exercise and doing some lateral thinking.
Yes,
I'm
indeed. You need to.
Speaking
Yeah.
hypothetically, of course, guys live in Panama and they're still not civilized here when it comes to this sort of thing.
Okay.
But
okay.
someday we keep
Yeah.
trying.
Yes,
So-
it'll happen.
I hope so. I really do. So tell us about your products. You know, tell us what you're launching. Tell us what you're actually providing.
Well, the products we have are, you know, we're launching a flower. It's a premium flower. It's I have some of the logistics written down. We sell like 1A flower jars. We have an amazing OG lineage, the San Fernando Valley window. From Safe is 28.9% to 32% THC testing. So it's up there. You know what I'm saying? Very, very good. It's grown hydroponically indoors. So like we're looking to like really expand and like, you know, like right now we're in the SoCal region. We're looking to move up north in early 2021, as well as doing like one or two out-of-state deals. But it's getting really good reviews right now. So we're on the move with it. I'm looking to make it a very high scale brand, you know, premium, classy, bring something different to the cannabis industry, you know?
Yeah, I love that approach. I think premium brands is where the margins are going to be, but also for some of us, that's what we want, right? You know, the ditch weed, that's the past, you know?
Yes.
Hopefully we can toss that in the rear view mirror. I mean, I still remember the days of gas weed, you know, and how we suffered in the 70s, but anyways, I'll spare you those stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. You know where I'm coming from.
Definitely.
So, do you have a favorite product? I just find your line interesting. You're talking about your OG. Is there anything in particular that you really like smoking on and you think is really good that your customers are going to like?
Oh yeah, our 99 OG, 99 OG, you know, and we're going to come with different strands. All of our strands are going to be, you know, different song titles, named after different song titles that we had. So 99 OG is it's great. And you know what I'm saying? I don't like to toot my own horn, but beep beep, it's good. It's good. I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying?
I'm looking at no, but that's awesome. I'm glad you. Good for you. This is your opportunity to talk your book, and I'm certainly, if I was in California, I know where I'd be going, what I'd be buying. But anyways, I'm here in sunny Panama.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, you know. So,
yes.
You know what? There's a lot of questions I really love to ask you, right? How did you pick your business partners? I mean, are they all band members, or did you choose other people? Like, how did you go about deciding that, okay, I want to do this, we want to launch this, we want to make a statement, right? How did you pick your business partners? And some of the entrepreneurs in the audience would enjoy hearing about this.
Yeah, well, I had to learn a lot because, you know, when I first decided to really get involved seriously with this, you know, I had a bad experience with some of the people that I was partners with at the time.
Sure.
And it just didn't work out the way I envisioned it. So, and I learned not only did I need to learn more, but I also saw that they didn't know as much as they said they knew. So, you know, the partnership that I have now, you know, they're much more in tune with the business. And the bottom line is they were who they said they were, you know, so the visions and the goals between us, they align very well, and everybody has a common goal. So this partnership is a much better situation, but yet and still, it has been hard. We've had many challenges, especially in this COVID season. We've had to overcome a lot of obstacles, and we've had to just deal and adapt to these crazy times. But being able to sit down and work through it all, and nobody's emotions is involved, and being able to come to a reasonable agreement on whatever the situation is, has been one of our strong points. So that's why we've been very successful. And that's very important, that you can have partners that you can lean on and actually know the business. And, like things that you don't know, you can lean on them, and things they don't know, they can lean on me. So it works hand in hand. It has to work hand in hand.
That's one of the hardest things, finding good partners. I mean, a good management team, I'll take an A management team and a B business plan over an A business plan and B team anytime. So, and you as a musician who has achieved many high awards, you understand what excellence means. You know exactly where I'm coming from. So finding people at your functioning your level can be a real challenge. So
exactly.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. Good stuff. So I want to know a little bit about your future plans for Leaves of Legend. For example, maybe you could tell us a little bit of what kind of growth you think you might see in 2021 and 2022. We could start with that.
Well, in 2021, we envision getting up to 50 retailers throughout the state, and and like I said, at least one or two more out of state deals. We're looking to do, with this brand, we're looking to do more collaborations with more legends that resonate with the brand. That support the cannabis culture. We're trying to go out and get other legendary people, whether they're sports figures, into music and Hollywood. We're trying to get those people to come and do a strand with us to just make the brand bigger, and take it to that level of a real legendary brand, by having all these legends involved. And also just we're including, we're doing a collab with Cookies. We're expected to be in their stores very, very soon. So we're just taking it slowly but surely, because I'm not in a rush to fail. So we're taking it step by step, and like just trying to do it right, and hopefully be one of the leading brands, cannabis brands, out in the very near future.
I think you will be one of those, actually.
Yes, indeed.
What would you say are your current needs? Like, what are the things that keep you awake at night, for example, with your business, that you feel you need to get in order to keep growing, to keep functioning?
Well, we have the product. We got the product. We have great branding. We're currently right now fundraising to expand marketing and production outreach. Like to really get out there more. Looking to get future collaborations, like I said, and we're looking to range, anywhere from like 150K just to support our inventory and marketing needs for Leagues of Legend. So that's just some of the things we need, to really and it's not even really that much, because we feel like our product speaks for itself. It speaks volumes. It's very loud. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what we're looking for right now.
If you were to do it over again, would you launch in the same way? Would you do it a little differently? What would you say to some of the people who are listening right now, who would love to be able to learn from an experienced guy like you how to do things? What would you say are the key success factors that you need to be successful in your business? What do you really need to be good at to do well? And product, of course, is one thing, but there's more to it than just product, because I also think you need a team. But I'd love to hear what your perspective is.
Yeah, well, for somebody like, you first of all, you have to be educated in anything you're thinking about venturing into. You know what I'm saying? You have to have the education. You have to have an understanding as to what it's going to take, to be successful, because it's a lot of work, and you have to be up for the task. So you have to educate yourselves. And like I was saying earlier, you have to get involved in aligning yourself with the right people that know just as much as you do, or even more. I love people that know more than me because I love to learn different things. So, that's key. And just having trust in your team, and, just man, just believing in what you're doing. Just having the faith and believing what you're doing. Like I said, this is something that I feel like we should have been involved in from the jump. So I have a lot of faith in what I'm doing. And like I said, the key thing is the education. I preach education to everybody in whatever you do, whether it's music or cannabis, or whatever you're trying to do, you have to be educated about it. It's very, very important. And me, myself, you know, I resonate with I resonate and I'm in tune with the cannabis culture because we come from that. So, it was very easy for me to transition over into it. So that's another thing, you have to know about this. You can't just jump in it because you smoked a few blunts in your time and thinking, thinking you can like really be in this business, because it's way more. It's way more than just that.
Lots of practical wisdom there. Seriously, that's great stuff. One of the things I noticed when I was doing a little bit of research on you guys, I noticed that you do some really interesting things in the community, and I really like that. And so, could you please tell us a little bit about some of your community initiatives? You could start with the Cleveland School, but just tell us about some of the things you're doing, the way you're giving back. I think that's really important because as entrepreneurs, we have to give back to the community.
Yes, indeed. The Cleveland School of Cannabis, this is an academy, a cannabis academy, and what they do is they educate the people from the community, particularly minorities, and they educate them in the cannabis, in the cannabis industry, about the industry, and they reveal to them all the different aspects and all the different levels of the industry. It's not just smoking weed, not just selling cannabis, or it's many different levels to it. So what they do is they teach them this and they certify them, whether they want to be growers, cultivators, or own dispensaries, or go work for somebody else. Once they graduate from this academy, they will have all the tools and skills that they need to be certified to go and do that in whatever they would like to do. So what I did, I partnered with them and I became the ambassador of the school, and I started a scholarship program. And what I did was I went and, we picked certain people to be enrolled to get the scholarship, and we paid for them to go to the school and to learn about it if they really want to learn about the industry. We just enrolled our first student last month, so it's going really good. She's learning a lot, and it's a really good program, and we're looking to continue that and make it bigger as it becomes more successful. Definitely. And with my nonprofit organization, Spread the Love, along with Lee's a Legend, we're giving back. We're helping people that is coming out of the correctional institutions. They have went down for like cannabis. We're helping them get back on track and do certain things, and like possibly getting them jobs within the industry legally, the right way. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been penalized for this, for smoking cannabis and indulging in it for so long. That's another reason I feel like it's only right for us to have a share in this, because we've been penalized for it, and now everything is all great. So we have to have a hand in that, because we helped create this culture and make it as popular as it is today. So that's basically what we're doing.
Oh, that's so well said. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about your not-for-profit?
Yes, nonprofit. It's called Spread the Love. We have actually two camps, one based in California and one in Ohio. And it's something I wanted to do, man. To just give back to the youth in the community, and like start certain like food programs and clothes program to help the homeless and things like that. So like we've been like planning this for a while, so we just executing everything, and it's been going very well so far. So blessed.
Really glad to hear that. And yes, we all are blessed, and that's great work. So, I'm going to be wrapping this up soon, but there's something I would really like to ask you, and that is today, Crazy Bone, if you were going to have a conversation with your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self today? What would you
Man,
say that you should do different? And how would you say that this could help you with cannabis?
what I would say to my 20-year-old self, I would just tell myself, I would tell myself that the things that you think are important right now at this time, they're not going to be that important in 20 more years. You know what I'm saying? So take the things that really matter, that's going to really benefit you, and that's what you concentrate on. Leave everything else alone, like because it's going to take you through some obstacles that you don't want to go through. And you're not going to like them. So that's what I would go back and tell my 20-year-old self, and just like slow down a little bit, and just listen a little more, and you'll be all right. Basically. I wish I could go back and say that too, for real.
Believe me, I wish I could say that to my 20-year-old self, but knowing my 20-year-old self, I sure as hell wouldn't have listened. But
me either.
But as somebody who is an influencer, an opinion leader, what you have to say matters. And these words go out into the ether and people listen, and that's good. And it'll make changes and ripple back. So that's wonderful.
Definitely.
So I'd like to wrap up just by saying, is there anything that you would like to say or anything you'd like to add? Is there anything that I missed? Anything you feel you'd like to comment on? Please go ahead and share in any way you feel appropriate.
Man, no, I just want to, just want to thank everybody for supporting me in all my endeavors, whether it be music, cannabis, like whatever I've done, I've been getting great support. And man, I just want everybody to look out for the Leaves of Legend, try it. It's, we're in a few locations, you know what I'm saying? And hold on, I can read those locations off real quick just so everybody know where they can get it from. Like I said, we're doing a partnership with Cookies at the top of 2021. We're currently in 8 retailers and about to be, flagship for us, Cookies. The current retailers are DTPG, Litco, Long Beach Wellness, High Note Culver, City, and East LA, Empire Connect, Empire Twin Palms, and The Vote. We're looking to get into more. And like I said, thanks everybody that's been supportive of what I've been trying to do, man. And blessings to everybody out there. And man, thank you for having me.
Wow, couldn't have put it better myself. We do have 1 minute. Mandy, did you want to ask a question? Sorry, you're on mute.
I was putting up a peace sign, but I actually was at Crazy Bones' house this time last year. He did a launch party and had the girl in the bubble in the pool, and they were painting the girls and the music, and the product looked great. It was an amazing party, and the medicine was good. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate it. That was a great launch party.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Good luck out there.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, I'm going to wrap it up now, Crazy One, but I just want to say that for me, this is the first time I've ever interviewed a rap star. I come from a corporate weasel background, and I'm used to dealing with other types like myself, but this is a real pleasure chatting with you. And
thank you, man. I enjoyed myself.
I'm going to tune in on your music, and I'm going to make sure it's a big bowl.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got to. It's only right. For real.
Anyways, thank you so much. And